who's here. This meeting will be no longer than a total of 2 hours in duration. We don't really take minutes. We have the recording. We may send some notes out depending on what we talk about. Are there any short announcements from outside of this meeting that anyone wants to make at this moment? Nope. Okay. And our next meeting is probably next Tuesday, April 28th at the same time, although that's one of the things we are going to talk about tonight. Okay, so we added a discussion item, and we're going to start with that discussion item, which is Beyond Animal. And both Silas and Ray are going to share with us. So if you guys would like to take that.
Okay, so we had a demo of the platform, Beyond Animal platform. So it is, it's like Facebook, but for vegans. But it has a lot more functionality than Facebook. And so they're also working on a community, not just groups, but also community, which is groups within groups, subgroups within a group idea. So that way, and they wanted to work with us to implement that. And if we wanted to join them, then they would make that a top priority. So we were looking at that as a way to basically move our Basecamp operations onto Beyond Animal. Because that there it's through notifications that you tell people that something is happening in their group. So it's not emails. So it's not emails. So it's very rarely do they use emails. It is possible to send emails to everyone in your group, but only the admin can do that. So that's the way it is set up. Because one of the major complaints you get about Basecamp is that people are getting flooded with emails, and they don't like that. And so we are losing people. And so it's important for us to look for a way around this. So anyway, Beyond Animal looks like a great platform to do that. So, and I encourage everyone to join that. You can join it for free and play with this. I mean, eventually I think for features like community, they're going to charge us, but I don't think it'll be more than what we are paying Basecamp anyway.
So joining it is like joining Facebook or joining Basecamp, where you just sign in. There isn't anything
you
more
can sign in
that.
using your Facebook sign login or your Google login, or you can create your own sign in. And then you have to, it asks you to fill up your profile. So you have to basically say what your expertise is, because they are indexing all that, you know, so that within Beyond Animal, you have access to everyone within Beyond Animal. You can look for expertise within Beyond Animal. So Beyond Animal to me is Vegan World. It's like Vegan World, right? But specifically within that, we'll have, that's my goal, is to have a Vegan World 2026 project where we are looking for something specific. We are trying to create something specific within that platform. So it has, so they already have all these news items from Life Kindly and One Green Planet and all this showing up. So it's a collection of all vegan articles that already show up in your newsfeed. And from there, from Beyond Animal, you can directly post to Facebook, your Facebook accounts. So they made that pretty seamless. And I did that today. You know, I went and shared a couple of articles from Beyond Animal onto Facebook.
So what is the history of Beyond Animal?
So Beyond Animal, so they, I think the idea was for that was initiated in 2018, middle of 2018. And then they started coding it. And I think just Q1 of this year, they had about 1,500 people on it.
Ooh,
okay. And so now they're trying to grow it. So Q2, they're expecting 10,000 people. And hopefully by the end of the year, they'll have 100,000 people. Who knows how it's going to grow. But I was impressed with the quality of the work that they've done so far. So this is why I joined, and you know, and I'm just going to play with it for a few days. And I've asked them, you know, if they would prioritize making the community feature available before we shift our Basecamp to that. but I would encourage people to just try it out as individuals for now. Okay.
And so if Basecamp moved there, then all of the people that are already there would be able to join all of the groups. So
Right.
that would give us an immediate base
Right.
of
Yeah.
more people.
Right.
And is this
Potentially.
worldwide?
I'm sorry?
Is this a worldwide? I mean, do they have people from all over the world?
Yes, there are people from all over the world. So they're mainly Europe focused because it's the company is out of Switzerland, but Claire Smith, who's the CEO, is on Basecamp. So she was on Basecamp, and that's how we got in. I mean, and she knows Jane Willis Mitchell. Jane had actually interviewed her sometime in September, October, and she had said, you know, you're amazing. I need to introduce you to Dr. Rao. So she introduced us, and then I went to India, and sort of, you know, the ball got dropped. But we got back in touch. She joined Basecamp, and she's been commenting on Basecamp as well. And so we got back in touch, and now we had the meeting yesterday.
She's also created the vegan index on the stock exchange.
Right. Yeah.
Which is cool.
Very good. I see
Really?
relevance to the new economy.
Yeah. So she's got a community of vegan investors, you know, vegan philanthropists, and
You want to come up? Come on.
vegan activists on the platform at the moment.
Wow.
So it is it's a place where vegans are gathering anyway. So we might as well, you know, join them. My opinion, I was impressed with what she has done, what they've done so far. So, and I've been looking for alternatives to Basecamp anyway. So, because as it is, you know, we are getting like at least 2 or 3 messages a week saying, "Take me off. I don't want to be on this anymore." So
One of the downsides of Basecamp is it's designed for corporations,
right.
where they don't have a choice. You know, they're a captive audience. You're part of the Basecamp system now. News for you, you don't have a choice. So sign up your email and you'll be getting notifications. It's all work-related stuff, so you can't ignore it. So for a climate of volunteers, they're going, why am I getting bombarded with emails? You know, I decide how engaged I want to be. And for a lot of people, that's too much. You know, and then on the other hand, you know, we're trying to create a vegan web by 2026. Is too much emails your bar of, you know, participation?
Yeah, no, I understand, but at the same time, I think it does. I mean, a lot of people say some of the emails are unnecessary. So I remember, you know, even when we were doing the internet, we had these email reflectors, and we would get emails. And if someone sent an email on the main reflector, which bombarded everybody, boy, that better be a really good email. Otherwise, they were going to be strung up by the chairman. You know, he was stringing them up for sending email on that. But we don't do that on Basecamp. So there are lots of people sending, you know, yes, you know, I'm putting a lot of hearts and, you know, some symbols, and it goes out to everybody, right? Which is unnecessary. So anyway.
Although it would be nice to have this kind of like in the water cooler chat, that with less focused point, less focused sharing, that of course, if you've got something specific to the economy, you put it in the new economy group, or something about organic farming, you put in the organic farming group. So there are things that are just kind of general to share with everybody. And it is nice to be able to share with everybody. But when everybody gets pinged on their emails, it creates a lot of work for me, because there are solutions, but I have to train every person on how to deal with it. Some people like to be notified of every email. So when there's notifications all day long, they're getting ding, ding, ding on especially on their cell phone. I recommend that they turn off the notifications and use the Basecamp app. And then you've got settings there that both in the app and in your cell phone itself to control your notifications. But that's a learning curve. So, you know, we may want to gravitate towards something that is much more familiar, like Facebook. It's the Facebook-like interface, or the expectations are understood.
Right. I mean, initially, I would say, you know, let's give them a chance to develop that feature, and and they're willing to do that for us. Okay. So once they're done with that community feature, which they say will take them a month to do it, and then we can see if we can port all of our data from Basecamp onto that first, and then we'll figure out, because Basecamp anyway, we have it till the end of this year. The renewal is going to be coming up in next January. And it costs about $1,100 a year for Basecamp.
Is there also possibilities that we might use that as our public-facing system right away? Because we were talking about Kipwise and Slack. Kipwise is a plugin for the Slack architecture, and for the we keep Basecamp as is with our study groups, which is all internal. It's, you know, people come here and we noodle about different ideas. But when we have an initiative to bring to the world, then we are going into task force mode, and that may require more of a public-facing.
Right. So the idea behind Kipwise was that you would be writing white papers and then have the public face of the white paper through Kipwise onto the web page, onto the Vegan World 2026 web page. So that's where all the white papers are going to get congregated. But that's even beyond animal, they allow groups to be private. So closed groups, you know, so then our Basecamp could be like a closed group on Beyond Animal, where we are doing all the work, and then we have, I mean, we still may need something like Kipwise, or they were suggesting, Claire was suggesting, why don't you use Google Sheets, you know, to do white papers. But then you have to have a public face. It's not that seamless, right? The public face. You have to really go and edit it out and put it into the web page. Whereas Kipwise, you just take a snapshot and say that's public, and it goes out. And it even allows us to embed videos and audios and, you know, and images. And I mean, it's very, that way it's very nicely done, Kipwise.
Is that a manual snapshot or a automated snapshot?
It's a manual snapshot that we do.
Because Basecamp does give you the option, if you have in your docs and files, any document you have there, or any entry in any one of the conversations in Basecamp, you can save it in the menu. There's a feature to make a public link out of it. And it turns it into virtually a PDF. It might actually be a PDF. So
Right.
It's not editable. It's not something that you add comments to, but that's part of what the PDF is about, right? It's presenting an uneditable, this is a publication rather than.
But PDF is not, it does not have, it's not like a public web interface, right? It's basically like a document you can download on the web. People really like to see the document on the web itself.
So what is it that we see with Kipwise?
You'll see the whole document. It'll be like, you know, it'll be like there's a snapshot of the white paper. Okay, so the current white paper is the current snapshot. So
you see it where? On a
and if you click on the white paper link, you should see that. Like right now, you click on the white paper link on Climate Healers, you see the white paper, right? But there is also a download link there, but you see the white paper on the web itself. And it helps, you know, to have that, especially when we start adding videos and things in our white papers. Okay, then PDF is limited. So anyway, looking at where we are headed and what we need to be doing in the next 6 years, I'm seeing Beyond Animal and Kipwise as the as the platforms we'll be using, at least with what we know now, with what is available now.
So so the timeline, based on what I just heard, the timeline is each of us goes and joins Beyond Animal. We play around, we get a
Right.
little bit more comfortable with it. They
Right.
work on these groups or community groups, however it is that that's going to work over the
Right.
next month.
Right.
And depending on what happens with those of us who join it and play around with it and what happens with them with these groups, then you'll make a decision about whether or not to
Right.
move everything from Basecamp over to there.
Yeah, we will make a decision together. We decide which way we're going to go.
Okay.
Okay.
So that's easy for us to do. We go play with it and we tell you what we think
Right.
as
Yeah.
we're going. Is there anything we should be doing on KIPWISE?
KIPWISE, we haven't really pursued after we had our initial talk. Maybe we should have. Did Suzanne, did you get a chance to use it at all?
No, I haven't used KIPWISE yet. No.
Okay. Maybe that's the project for the next month, is to put the animal agriculture white paper on KIPWISE, okay, first. Make it editable and have comments on that. So go through the formal process of using KIPWISE and make that the public face. You know, all the things that I said can be done, we should do it with KIPWISE.
And KIPWISE and Slack are both a per user charge?
No, Slack
License?
is free. I think KIPWISE is a per user charge. And he was talking about $2 per person per month, which we said, okay, whoever is certified, you know, they have access to KIPWISE, they could go right there. So we are sort of formalizing the process of writing white papers, right, for the task forces. And so anyone who is certified can join KIPWISE Climate Healers account, and then they have to put in $2 per month on Patreon to pay for that, for their membership. So this way, I don't have to go fundraise for that separately.
Okay. All right. Any other questions about Beyond Animal or KIPWISE at this point?
One thing, yeah, I think I had a question regarding the document sharing of this thing, but I think the KIPWISE or Slack is still an option, or it will be evaluating, or?
KIPWISE is through Slack. So meaning that Slack is the platform that's the front end for KIPWISE. So Slack has its own, project deadlines and, scheduling. So it's basically time-based as opposed to Basecamp, which is more project-based, right? Slack is time-based management that it does. So it allows us to say things like, very easily, say things like, comments are going to end by this date, and then we are going to take a snapshot of it. We are going to resolve comments by this time, etc.
Awesome.
Now, I think Ganesh also suggested some other platforms that we can evaluate for the documents. So maybe we should look at those too. But KIPWISE, again, we can play with it and see if we like it or not initially.
Was that bit.ai?
Was that bit.ai was what he suggested?
I wrote that down and I didn't specify what it was about, but I think that.
Okay, yeah, I think it was that, bit.ai.
How has everybody found Basecamp as far as the email notifications? Has it been a bit on the heavy side?
Yes,
Yeah.
I have a daily notification. So I kept it as a daily notification. I whenever I introduce people to Basecamp, I said, hey, do you subscribe to Facebook? Yes. Do you like all those notifications? I said, no. Can you read directly in Facebook? Yeah, I do that. Just make sure you do the same for Basecamp. I tell them, yeah, all right, I get it. Like, yeah.
Mhm. I just want to be cautious about, a few people complain about it, but there's 400 people at Basecamp now. 400 people aren't complaining. And a lot of people are saying, unsubscribe. And they're generally people that aren't engaged in any of the conversations. So like
Right.
if they really want to disengage, then I delete their account. And in a sense, it's kind of like nobody likes the sound of their alarm because it makes them do what they're supposed to be doing, which is getting up. Those emails are kind of like the annoying spam that eventually gets through to you. When there's something that should get through to you, you respond to it. Sometimes getting the word through to people, and it's kind of a nag. But it reminds you that Basecamp is there and that you can engage with it. If you turn off your notifications, you might as well just delete your account because you're not going to go, oh, I wonder what's happened in Basecamp today, and then log in directly to the browser. I don't think, does anybody do that? Basecamp is kind of designed for email to be your portal. This happened, you get an email notification, you follow the link to wherever the comment happened, right? So you're
Right.
responding in the exact place. It's intuitive that way. But because it's email facing, it drives a lot of people nuts.
Right.
Especially the people that want to directly reply to it. As you can see all over Facebook, all over Basecamp, there's notifications of people that are obviously replying by email and they don't know where their message is going. And whole threads that are in totally the wrong place because people are just responding to the notification directly without going into Basecamp.
Right.
So it's very, we're kind of putting a round peg in a square hole, I suppose. It's a corporate tool.
Benjamin and Suzanne, it looked like you were about to say something.
Well, I was going to admit that I have turned off my email notifications, but I use there's a daily 9 a.m. roundup that I get, and I use that. So then I'm basically just in the browser 100% of my day. Sometimes I'll close it and open it again at 9, but I did have to turn off my email notifications.
So when you turn off your email notifications, you still get a reminder daily? You've got to turn it completely off.
I
Like
maybe selected it, but.
Because I have had people, when I guide them how to turn off their notifications, and then I get a message, I'm still getting emails. It could be one a day, but that's still too many.
Yeah, I get a daily reminder. Maybe that I still don't know whether it's an automatic or is it comes.
I've got everything turned on, so I'm getting 2 notifications for anything that I've been tagged in. So I get it automatically, and then if I'm tagged, I get it again, which that's got to be a flaw. There's something
No,
wrong
actually,
there.
there is 2 rays in the thing. Maybe I don't know if people are tagging.
No.
Well, I'm unfamiliar with, I had used Basecamp once before. There's another one that I used and I can't even think of the name of it right now, but I can't even help figure out where to go because it's not a corporate entity. It's a nonprofit, but then it's not totally because it's 100% volunteer or 99.9% volunteer. And I don't know where such a platform exists that was designed to do this. Like there might be one that was designed to do this that we just don't know about, or there might not be one that was designed. And so we're trying to figure out where to fit in to try and get this work done. And so it sounds to me like playing around with some different things as we hear about them is a great idea. Facebook has a whole bunch of problems. Beyond Animal sounds like they are very willing to help figure it out to make it work for us. And certainly they have the same, goal, same philosophy anyway that we have. So that's a huge advantage. So I think we go play with it, and it doesn't sound like we're going to lose anything. And it also sounds like we've got 9 months, 8 months,
Right.
before we have to make an actual decision. We could leave Basecamp and start moving things over, see how it works. And if it doesn't work, shift it back to Basecamp before the end of the year, or begin shifting it over and find that it does work and be able to move it entirely.
Right.
Is anybody familiar with Slack? Because that's the other platform that we're thinking about, and if it's easy, is it a pretty easy learning curve, easier than Basecamp? Or
I like Slack too. Like the things about Slack is you have like a segment. So if you are in the segment, it's easy to view. Plus you can link all the Google Docs and everything if you're specifically using. So somebody can go and view there. Then one more thing also you can do is you can actually, in the conversation, you can link. On the top, it tells you what are the documents that dealt with this conversation. So it kind of makes it, for example, in Basecamp, you can do 50 comments. It could have involved 50 documents or 10 documents. I have to really go and dig. But if in this one, in Slack, I can see on the top, like, all right, the policy is involved. Okay, there is a rate sheet is involved. Like that,
I see.
like that in Facebook Messenger, any document you've shared with the person that you're talking to appears in a column on the right-hand side. If you're in a web browser and you got your browser wide open, which is handy. I know what you mean. The stuff can get lost in the long threads that might or might not be in the right place.
I do have another question. Are you asking everyone in Basecamp to join Beyond Animal and play around, or are you choosing, to get 20 or 30 people to go look at it, or is that even important?
I mean, I can send a message out to everyone to say play around and recommend Beyond Animal, which anyway is a good thing to do. She's trying to create a vegonomy, vegan economy within Beyond Animal. So, but yeah, mainly it's us. We have to,
Okay.
People who are active should be trying it out and seeing which one they like best.
Okay. All right. The question just occurred to me. So, okay. So we will go ahead and join, and we'll just have we'll add it to the agenda for every week to be having a conversation about Beyond Animal and our experiences there. And if any big things come up, we'll send something out to everyone on this call to say whatever that might be. I have no idea what it would be, but we'll do that. Okay. All right, then I'd like to go ahead and move on to the next point of discussion, which is that obviously this is our second transition moment in BCI, right? We had one in January, we had additional people that came in, and then we attempted to go through the question and answer process to come up with a vision, mission, aims, and culture statement, which became somewhat difficult, and we ended up not finishing that. And yet we did actually come up with a vision, mission, aims, and culture statement, or statements about all of those things, and feel really good about it. And yet our population is relatively small. So we thought one of the things we should ask is, do we need to change the date and time of this call? And we aren't sure. Suzanne Benjamin and I talked about this earlier. When we send things out, are all 96 people getting notified, or this goes back to that turning off the notifications. So there are 96 people signed up to be on VCI. Obviously, there are very few of us who come every time. So if people have turned those notifications off, they're not seeing anything that we're sending out unless they specifically come in, log in, and look at BCI, right?
Depends
Right,
on, I guess, if they're sending a daily update,
so they might see.
They might see it tomorrow as opposed to today, right? Because you're sending it just an hour before the meeting.
Right, and that was true today, but last week it went out the Thursday before the meeting. So
Okay.
I've not been consistent. I will say I have not been consistent. We were trying very hard to get it out by Monday, a day ahead of time. We did not get that done this week. And on occasion, it was earlier than that. So I guess I'd like to just open up for discussion, 2 points of discussion. One is, Do we need to worry about the number of people? Like, do we just need to do as much work as we can do with the people who are here and invite people as they come? I mean, you know, if they show up, we graciously include them and try and get them engaged in something. Do we work really hard trying to get more people in? So that's one piece of the discussion. And the other is there anything about the day and time about this meeting that might be difficult in preventing people from coming? And so I'd like to just open it up to a general discussion about that. What do other, or am I just being overreactive to this and I just need to let it go?
This is something that comes up in every group. And with New Economy, we were noticing that there's a lot of people that were interested, but nobody was showing up for the meetings. And some people were in Europe, and they were not okay with the time that it was created. So we said, do you want to have a meeting that's like maybe do the 9 a.m. and 9 p.m. kind of thing? And the one person that was vocal about it said, I'm fine watching the recordings of the meeting without participating. So that didn't really fulfill the demographic. And we haven't heard it from anybody else, but we do know I did take a glance at it, and it was, you know, every time zone, including Australia and Turkey, and the person in question was in London. So throwing out a survey, you mentioned that people may be not aware that there's notifications going out, and this is one of the solutions for that, is to just make a list and email group and notify them outside the Basecamp system. Because if they've got Basecamp filtered either from Basecamp or from their web browser, me sending a Climate Healers email hopefully gets by that physical or or virtual filtering process. So I'm sure there's some people that just go Basecamp skip Basecamp. But if you incorporate Vegan World 2026, the difference between Basecamp, a thing, and Vegan World 2026, a concept, they may be all about Vegan World 2026, but Basecamp, you know. So
Okay, so that's
we also send Doodle surveys by email. So that's another way of contacting people outside of the Basecamp structure.
Right. I think it's worth doing a doodle on this so that we find what is best for people, what day works best for people, and time as well. You know, because I know that Jessica is not participating because it's not. She can only participate after 5 o'clock her time, 5 o'clock Pacific time.
right after 8 o'clock her time.
Right. Yeah.
One of the things we're suggesting for New Economy, if there was a lot of interest in Europe and Asia, is to maybe have two different groups that meet at different times, and we just find opportunities to share notes, connect, and say what you've come up with, what have you come up with. Maybe even meet on some neutral time zone during the Friday block party. Share ideas. Oh, and the other thing, because its New Economy is so closely related to the Aquarius study group, which is a big group of people who don't do anything because we're waiting for the Aquarius to be launched. So we were suggesting that maybe that the Aquarius group, the people that have signed up for that, might have their own meetings in Europe, because Jean-Francois is actually in France.
Right.
And
but you
that
know,
hasn't happened yet, but that's another idea, is to just get that overlap addressed in different groups in different continents.
So, but the Aquarius app is really the K-Mama app. You know, it's pretty much becoming, because you have to create an economic activity around which you're building your currency, right? And so this food app that we are working on, where the points you're giving, you know, it's basically becomes Aquarius. These are Corona points, becomes Aquarius. Eventually, we are going to be using it to measure our ecological footprint and so on. But right now, it is just points. So it's very non-threatening to start with, right? You don't want to suddenly say, I want to create my own currency and have the FBI breathing down your neck.
What do you think the last, as we were ending the meeting with Claire and Dinesh, I said, one last question, what have you ever considered involving cryptocurrency?
Right. Yeah.
And they burst into laughter.
Right.
And I couldn't quite tell if that's like, no, please don't bring that up. It's obviously an ongoing topic that they're constantly challenged with.
Right.
And I said that we've got different stages of currency, including reputation currency, and how would that work in a virtual vegan world? I think it's probably a natural fit for that to get started in somewhere like that.
Yeah, it's an economic activity like that. So the K-Mama meetings are going to happen as part of the collective intelligence block party. So every week there's a time going to be allotted for that. So where we are going to be looking at the schedule for the app being developed and a list of features that we have on the app and any additional features that need to be added. We're going to discuss that during that. And then we're going to also have a group of doctors who are helping with, and Priya Naik is assembling that group. So who are going to be helping with the nutritional side of it.
Cool.
And I mean, dietitians and so on. And then marketing people who are going to be connecting us to restaurants. So it looks like there's a lot of activity happening around that. And so Jamin has said, we'll give you 2 hours or something within the block party that we could do that every week.
Cool.
Okay. And that'll be right after the Divine Feminine.
Okay.
Which I think meets until 11 a.m., 9 a.m. to 11 a.m. is Divine Feminine.
Right.
So right after that, we'll have this.
Cool. Shankar, did you have a question?
Yes. Yeah, actually, I was thinking meeting timings is one factor. I'm just, this is a thought. Another thing is like a lot of folks get aware about Climate Healers Basecamp through our events in Facebook or something recently. How about we publicizing somebody's events or maybe a peer group events that might get a little bit attention about who are you saying about that, so that and that will be also an invite to our events, like for example, both like only the peer group or something, not like we cannot go and do everybody's events. That's like an exchange. That's one factor I want to say. Another one is like people who come, like the AIMS part of the what do you call it? I've even forgot that 4 parts. One of them is AIMS. That
Yeah.
AIMS is possible as a mission, AIMS culture. The AIMS part can be a project by itself. So if we can encourage people to come and do their project here, which again, they have to go through proposal, no doubt about it. But just when they come, that is, they are like confident. Some could be short-term projects, some should be long-term projects. So that can form a good group. Like some are saying, I'm going tomorrow doing activism. All right, your proposal is ready. So that, because ours is Vegan World 2026, everything adds up, everything adds up.
Right.
Adds up. Yeah, and some have a very good passion to do it. I'm doing tomorrow, I'll come and share how it went. So that could be one.
Yeah.
Another are like, I'm doing a 2-year plan. All right, at least this one day people who are passionate, probably they won't get stuck there, or like they are like, because that anticipation doesn't work. Slow projects, long-term projects has to be well thought through, laid through.
No, I mean, cross-pollination is very important, and talking to other groups who may not be completely aligned with us, but who are sort of getting to the same end point. Because I consider it to be human, earth, animal liberation. So there are people who are focused on human liberation who haven't yet seen the animal liberation side of it. But they're also part of this human, earth, animal liberation. So we need to get them on board. So this is why, talking to John Raymer during the thing, and now he's very much on board with KMAMA. So he's getting the mayors of so many cities to sign up for it, and so anyway, that's the kind of cross-pollination that's happening. I am also doing a narration for the Save movement, so their main video is going to have my voice narrating it. And they asked me, would you be okay mentioning Save movement? And I said, yeah, because I want you to be successful too.
Yeah, actually, yeah, the term what I was trying to add was, we can actually come up with the proposals. Then we are requesting for proposals. That is like, it could be from activism, or it could be from the, what do you call, like maybe making a survival vegan package or something for this. Or so we can say we have a request for proposal for this COVID to help the families for preparing a vegan pack, like a basic, like a one-day meal pack. Who is interested, who wants to donate this thing. So that's like, somebody will be like, oh, it's not mine. Okay. Another one is like, we are going to do an activism, who wants to join, request for proposal. They are like, yes, I'm coming. I'll bring a friend. So that word request for proposal, or calling them for action, might get enough attention for them to join. Then the team dynamics or the group dynamics might take it to the next step.
All right. So as we put this doodle out, should we come up with dates and times that work for those of us who have been coming, so that we can do that? Or do we want to put out a doodle that says, tell us when you would like to come to this meeting? I mean, if it's completely open, I'm afraid people just won't even respond.
It has to be specific times that we are comfortable with. So put up a range of them. Yeah. All
right. So can we do that right now, so that we can put this doodle together and get it out tonight or tomorrow? I guess we just go through the days of the week and find out what times people are comfortable meeting.
Right.
So let's start with Monday.
If we are doing an invitation of a bunch of new people that have signed up for VCI but have never attended, do we want to try to create an open house kind of thing where we explain what it's all about? I always wonder when people sign up and they're picking a bunch of different groups, and they pick this one, what do they think it is, right? Like, I'm not sure if they got a clear understanding. And they'll sign up on a Monday. I'll be like, okay, but make sure you be there on Tuesday, and they don't show up. So how eager were they to participate in the collective intelligence?
I think intergroup referrals.
What's that?
Like inter or intragroup referrals.
I mean, definitely this time should be part of it too, part of the doodle. But Tuesdays we can go up to 6 p.m. I know the next 40 days, next 12 days at least, 6 p.m. I'll be off for half an hour, but that's okay.
Right, okay. That's 6 p.m. your time, Pacific time.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, you can add that in the slots and see if people want to join. That's only a half an hour I have to take off. So I think it should cover about 8 hours. So I figure if people sleep for 8 hours anywhere in the world, right? If you cover 8 hours, then you're going to catch most people.
I'm not sure what you mean. The meeting should last for 8 hours, or the doodle
No,
should...
the range. The range of the starting time should be from, say, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m., something like that. So people can say which starting time is good for them, right?
Okay, and we can do that on a doodle to say which starting time is good for you for a 2-hour meeting. We can't, okay, I haven't gone in and done a doodle recently.
Give a range, and you can also restrict people on a particular timings. Like give one, it's only 12 to 1, pick the day.
Right.
You can do, yeah.
You can do 12 to 1 date, and then you can do like, 4 to 6 day, and then you can do 10 to 12 days, something like that. So then they can choose which one they want.
Okay, and we'll send that out. Okay, so we'll do that every day,
Mhm.
for every day. And
I wouldn't do Friday because we already have so many things going on Friday.
right,
And
got it.
maybe Saturday, Sunday, leave that out.
Right, and we've got too many things going on Saturday. I mean, we've got, and that may become a regular thing,
Right.
and not
Yeah.
Sunday. Okay, all right. So for Monday through Thursday, so Suzanne Benjamin and I will figure out how to put it together, and then we're going to send that to the 96 people that are on the list. And Ray, do we do that through you, or can we do that directly?
Anybody that's got access to the admin in Basecamp can get access to the emails. There's no easy way to extract email, like an email list, as far as I know. I've always done it manually.
Okay, all right. So we'll have to figure out how to do that. So we can meet tomorrow and figure that out. Suzanne and Benjamin, figure out how to put the doodle together and how to get it out to everyone. We can do that. Okay, all right. Then we will go ahead and do that for Monday through Thursday for an 8-hour period with starting times with a 2-hour block, and see what we come up with. And I think what we should do, and I think we can do this within the doodle, is to describe what the aims are, what the goals are of this group that I think we need to say what the vision, mission, aims, and culture is. These are the things we're going to be working on. We're looking for people who want to work on these specific things, so that it's not just a theoretical idea about what the group is, but this is what the group is going to be working on. Do you want to work on these things?
Right.
So that, and then Ray, once we hear back from people, we might want to take the first meeting that people come to and do an open house, or maybe we want to do an open house the day before or a couple times in the few days before the next meeting, and have a couple of hours on a couple different days to say, if you have questions about this and want to make sure it's what you want, show up to this open house. I think that's a good idea. And we can just pick the times for that, as long as we pick a couple of different times on a couple of different days. And then it will be recorded so people can also go look at it later. Right. So, okay. All right. Are there any other questions about the timing or about, and I have no idea if there are people who in that group of 96 who really want to be doing this and just aren't aware of what it is we've been doing because they haven't been able to come to this particular meeting time, or whether they had a different idea, or, I've wondered if the whole COVID-19 thing is screwing with people's heads and they're just not able to wrap their head around doing something like this. I don't know. I just have no idea. So we'll send the stuff out and see what we get back. Any other thoughts, ideas about any of that?
We're kind of a governance group, but also representing the collective intelligence concept. So there's a lot of people that are going to be, oh yeah, collective intelligence, I love it. But they may not be interested in this group admin kind of thing. So it might be maybe something that we need to tease out and find out as we communicate with people. And review what we actually have, how we have described this in the sign-up survey.
Right, I haven't looked at that for quite a while.
Actually, I read through, there is 2 places, one of the places in the docs also they have, in the vision and mention, we mentioned very briefly like a one-liner, and the other 2 places are the survey, and one more is in the documents about the groups, description of the groups.
Keep in mind that a lot of people hear about us through JBIN and Raj.org, and they see collective intelligence and they get excited about a particular idea of what that is. And I'm not sure that we're that. We're not talking about the same things that Jaden's talking about in the
Right.
Let's talk about collective intelligence. We're kind of an outworking of that.
In a way, I mean, we are doing that. Basically, it's getting input.
We're doing it rather than the concept of it, right?
Right. Yeah,
All about the concept of it, and this is the boring actual implementation of it.
Right. Right. This isn't about collective intelligence. This is collective intelligence. It's the doing, it's the practicing of collective intelligence rather than the concept and the talking about it. And that seems to be a harder concept than I imagined it to be, the distinction between those two. But we do need to take a look at that description and decide if that makes sense or not. All right, I think I'm pretty clear on the 3 tasks that we need to do around that: the doodle, scheduling an open house, and looking at the description in the survey. Any other questions, thoughts about that? All right. According to the agenda, we were going to take a 5-minute break and then get into talking about the specific aims that we have set out. And I don't know that, well, I guess I'm asking the question, do we want to go through those tonight and talk about who's doing what, or do we want to try and get more people in before we have that level of discussion about the aims? It's a question I have.
I think we can, I would say at any point, keeping the meeting going is awesome thing. So we will, like, if I understood the question, like, are we expecting like more people to join some in that way?
Well, I'm personally hoping we will have a few more people who want to join and do some of the work that we have set out to do. Because I think for the number of people on the call, this is actually a fair amount of work. Now, it could take longer, but it would be nice to have more people. And so if we really think in the next 2 or 3 weeks, we're going to have more people coming in, then my preference would be to hold off making more decisions about the specific work until they're here. But that may be erroneous. Maybe we need to just get into doing the work with the people who are here, and as new people come in, we'll figure it out. So, and there's probably more ways to approach it, but that's 2 significant ways. So I'm asking what people here would like to do.
Yeah.
It's a challenge of that sociocratic method that we are a mobile group of volunteers with a changing roster. So a lot of the sociocracy is designed for a group that exists and usually stays the same shape. So there's not an awful lot of what if there's new members? What if there's constantly new members? What if somebody comes in, to New Economy Group who's a, esteemed economist, which we're not, and he's got better questions than we do. Or we discover that some of our favorite questions are kind of naive. There's always going to be some sort of a changeover and an evolution of the questions that we think are important. And sometimes that's just a group maturing into the role that they've created for themselves.
Right.
I think I would say we are good with right now going with the questions or the actions. Then the group comes, probably we can have a small brief catch-up session, which we do like, hey, this is what we did in a couple of meetings specific to this aims or this thing. Then we can tell them like how it sounds to them and they want to be part of it, or they want to, like Ray mentioned, like they want to add more expertise or say like this can be totally done in this way. Or so that's fine, like we are okay, we are altering the course of it.
With the New Economy Group, one of the things that we discovered, that I found, was that the process of going through the questions, I think Keith was getting frustrated that it was taking so long, but I said, as we go through these questions, we're really learning about each other. Whether we decide this is part of the vision or this is not relevant, that kind of determines the character of the group. And I think that's part of the function of what Sociocracy has in mind. So that's a little bit more organic than just a follow the steps and then you win. Part of it is trying to decide what sort of a worldview we have. And some people are going to have, a very top-down kind of structured thing. And other people are going to be totally grassroots. And it's probably good to have a blend of the two, but you might discover that we're all grassroots and we just skip the whole political nonsense, and those are aims rather than vision. And I was trying to reassure Keith that I don't think there's any wrong answers as we come up with the questions. And if one is, you decide is a vision and then later on it ends up not being, there's no consequence. This is a process of feeling out what we're all about. And I don't think we can get it wrong in that sense.
So Jackie, I don't mean to put you on the spot, except I haven't heard your voice all evening. So I'm kind of wondering what you're thinking about this particular part, this question that I'm asking.
Yeah, I was listening to everyone, and I have to say that my instinct is to not wait. My instinct is to keep working. That's what my intuition is. Like, we don't have time. We need to continue moving forward, understanding that we're malleable and that we are, receptive to whoever does come in. But we have to continue the momentum. I don't want to wait.
Oh, thank you. And Benjamin and Suzanne, you haven't shared. I'm just curious.
Well, I think I agree with what Jackie said. I think that was beautifully said.
All right, cool. So do we want to take 5 minutes to run to the restroom to get another glass of water, a cup of tea, and then come back and go through as much of that, of the aims as we can get through with the time that we have?
You want a break?
You want to just keep going, or you want to take a break?
I could go for a quick break.
Quick break. Okay, so 5 minutes for real. I'm going to put a timer on. We'll be right back. Left in our time together. So I don't know if everyone had a chance to see the agenda, but the aims that are listed are not listed in any specific order. I mean, like, they're not in order of priority, and they're not in order of anything. They're just added. So I'm not certain that we will have a chance to get through all of them. Should I read through them all once and then we can choose which topic to start our discussion with and go from there?
Can you share them on the screen?
Sure, we can share. Can you guys share the agenda?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm actually holding a piece of paper. That's how low tech I am about this.
Does that work?
Yeah, I can see those. And that's all of them that we have come up with so far. So the aims, are the specific tasks, the specific goals, the work that we are actually going to engage in, and that we will be able to track what it is that we're doing over time. And as opposed to the vision and mission, which we have said we will come back and look at again in October, these can change anytime. It could be that we finish something and so we can take it off because we don't need to do it anymore. It could be that something new comes up and we want to add another aim, and we'll simply do that through discussion and consent on either taking something off or adding something new. So here are the aims that we have at this moment. To gather and disseminate monthly status updates from each of the study groups and task forces, which means that we need to come up with a methodology for reaching out to people to ask them to come to our meetings. We need to figure out whether we're inviting someone from each of the other groups to every meeting or to one meeting a month, or if we're going to split them up. So there's some work and discussion that needs to take place. Well, discussion first, and then some work around gating that information. And then how do we put that monthly status update out? Is that a newsletter? Is it something else? So that's one aim. The next is to gather and make available information on methodologies that will support the work of those study groups and task forces. We've called that the VCI tool library. We currently have 2 things that are in that tool library, which are in the docs and files section of VCI right now. And there are lots and lots of other methodologies that we can add to that. And so there needs to be some discussion about which tools should we add and how much information would go into that. Then we wanted to look at identifying and providing live and video, well, live and then recorded tutorials on a wide range of subjects that support the work of those study groups and task forces. And some of this, for both of these particular goals, we would say, we want to offer this. For others, people are going to be asking us, hey, I need information on something, how to write a white paper, how to engage a group of people in a, once we get to actually meet in person again, to have deep discussion about some topic in our local community. So people are going to be asking for questions that we're going to be researching and finding tools and tutorials about. The next is to keep a master calendar of meetings, which is pretty much being done at this point, but meetings, tutorials, and webinars that can be shared within and outside Basecamp or wherever we happen to be. To model the ideals of institutional transparency, personal privacy, and open discussion while respecting time constraints and having a willingness to get work done. So that's really about modeling and something that will be going on all the time, and whether we need to have a small group of people that takes a look at that and looks more at sociocracy, that might be something that we want to do. Bringing our message to other collective intelligence groups outside of Climate Healers, so that this group is sharing the vegan information across other collective intelligence groups that may not have considered veganism as part of the solution to our current problems. Taking a look at and providing support for an onboarding process for new people coming into Basecamp or wherever we happen to be. And we had talked about having specific language groups meeting. And at one point, there were some people on this call that said the first group they wanted to institute was a Spanish-speaking group. And I'm not sure that we have enough people still on the call who are able to do that at this point, but that was one of the things that we wanted to do, and that I didn't think we were going to stop with just a Spanish-speaking group, but that we would include other languages as well. And then the whole idea of accepting proposals from other groups within Vegan World 2026 for us to review and ask questions about and consent to. So those are the aims that we have at this particular moment in time. Is there one of those that people think, oh, we need to start with that one tonight?
Can you show me the mission and vision of the group?
The mission and vision are going to be a couple of, I don't think I have it printed out. Oh yeah, excellent. Is it this one or is it the one before? Yeah, I think it's the one before. Okay, so we had started this particular meeting by talking about what the Climate Healers vision and mission was, so that we understood what VCI was supporting. So the VCI vision is to facilitate the vision of Vegan World 2026 in a way that supports a growing, life-enriching global culture of normal nonviolence. So the whole purpose of VCI is to facilitate that vision. And then the mission is to support the work of all the people and all the other circles by acting as the general circle. So we see VCI as being the hub at which all of the other circles touch and come together in support of the climate healers vision. Because my current understanding is Vegan World 2026 itself has an implied vision, but not an actual written vision. But Climate Healers has a vision, and Vegan World 2026 is a project within Climate Healers. So we are facilitating that vision, and we are doing that by supporting the people and the other circles within Vegan World 2026.
Okay.
And then here.
See, again, the 50% of the industrialized world self-identifying as vegan, that is the minimum that we're shooting for. You know, I mean, maximum, of course, 100%.
Right.
Of the whole world, right? So I'm going to write a white paper on, I mean, I'm going to just going through this infectious disease paper. I think we need to write one just on veganism and the growth of veganism, mathematical modeling of veganism. Okay, so a separate paper and explain the different parameters that affect it and how do we tweak them so that we get to our objective.
And I think part of that white paper explaining why 50% is a good goal, that it doesn't have to be 100% in order to have all of these positive outcomes. We want it to be 100%, and we believe that it will get there eventually, but we don't have to scare everyone off or demand that everyone go vegan immediately.
Right.
And I as much as I don't like it, I think that that's helpful in the long run.
I like it a lot because that's what I saw instantly in this definition was a solution to the people who are not sure about a vegan world. You say vegan world and you go, the whole world? And then all of a sudden it's just a flood of excuses or instances or of exemptions. And usually it has to do with the poor, and it has to do with the rural people and people on the top of Mount Everest and, and the Arctic Circle. So there's so much of it that if we make that our goal, all those objections disappear and we get to work rather than address every last, what about, we're talking about you, we're talking about, the people around you, the people of privilege, the people who have the ability to make a choice, right?
Right.
And that is really where that starts.
Yeah, I would say, maybe in that vision statement, you would say at least 50% of the industrial world is self-identifying as vegan.
And mathematically, it's interesting that who knows exactly where it falls, but half of the industrialized world could ultimately end up being around 16% of the globe, which is the tipping point according to the law of diffusion of innovation. So it may be perfect to 2026 is the tipping point past which it's inevitable that it'll be 100% because everybody will be on board. And it's also emphasizing this is a choice. This isn't a mandate. This isn't a law that's going to be forced on people. And that's what a lot of people are worried about that you say vegan world, you're going to make the vegan law of 2026 and everybody who wants to eat meat, too bad for you. So it's very much a voluntary movement and
just like
a love-based movement as opposed to an oppressive movement. You can't have oppressive ahimsa.
Right. But it'll be it'll be a choice just like Jeffrey Dahmer has a choice, right? So it's one of those choices.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. You have to say that. Jeffrey Dahmer? You have to say that again. I'm sorry.
I was making a joke about it. Sorry.
There's a few legal problems with his diet plan.
Yeah, that just caught me off guard. I'm sorry. I'm sitting here thinking about how VCI facilitates the vision and what our mission is, and then I hear Jeffrey Dahmer, and I didn't catch the rest of
It was
it.
a test to make sure Anne was paying attention, and you clearly weren't. We gotcha.
Okay, so again, where we settled was, we came into an organization that has a vision statement, and we're here to make sure that that vision statement becomes reality. And we do that by supporting all of the rest of the work and all of the people that are involved. And here's what we've come up with for the short term. Again, some of these may be done forever or for the next 10 years, and some of them may get done and finished and taken off and new things added. But these are the things that we started with, so that we can support the people and the circles within. So we had some questions that we had said that we needed to discuss about each of these topics. We need to have a person who will take responsibility for, take leadership of, however we want to say it, but kind of the point person for each of these things. And we need to then figure out, are there timelines specific to these, or are they things that are open-ended that can be done whenever they get done? Are there specific other people that we need to include? And what are some of the specific tasks? So let's just start with the first one here and kind of go through that to have an idea. So right now, we don't have anyone who's the point person for gathering and disseminating monthly status updates from each of the study groups and task forces. So in my thinking, we need a few people who want to work on this, who will put together some sort of written invitation and maybe a verbal invitation. So, and then reach out to each of the study groups and task forces to find out what it is that they're doing, and if there is a person available to come to our meetings to give us an update. And then we would have a format that we would want to ask for them to put together some information so that we could gather it. And then we would take that information and put it into some, probably a document that we would have available every month that says, here's what the new economy, we talked about the new economy work group a lot, study group tonight quite a bit. So, what is the new economy study group working on? How is that, what have they done? What are they planning to do? What kind of support do they need? That support, whatever it is that they might need, then that might trickle into one of our other aims, that they need information on how to do this, or they need to reach out to this person. And so we would try to support them in doing all of that.
See, if I might make a suggestion, the way it used to work is that the larger group would invite the active groups to come and do a tutorial on what they're doing first. Okay, so then the group, like the new economy group, again, I feel like, currently in Basecamp, all the projects are sort of, there is no sub-project within a project, right? So there are teams and then there are projects. So I see new economy to be an umbrella group. And there are lots of other projects underneath that. Aquarius is part of new economy, and all these other things are part of the new economy. So they would be they'll be like their own circle, right? So they'll be getting updates from their people. But you need to get the new economy to come and give a tutorial to VCI. So VCI should invite key takers to do a tutorial on what they're studying in the new economy group, and then invite people in VCI and the larger Basecamp group to attend that tutorial, so they have an idea of the work that's going to happen on the new economy. So similarly, there's one for new ecology, right? So if you look at the categories that I spoke about, politics, there should be something about politics, there should be something about maybe law or social, I called it social, but law. one about spirituality. So you can invite the VCI, I mean the Interfaith Vegan Coalition, to come and give a tutorial on what they are doing, you know. And so then they can talk about the compassionate living circles. So you get this cross-pollination happening when people give tutorials.
So,
this-
so can I ask
Sure.
should there be a main group for each of the 7 core shifts where the other groups fit underneath that, so that we're
No, I would say the 7 core shifts are common to all the groups.
to all, okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I would say there should be
Okay.
there should be a main group for each of the categories I used in the tutorials. So I was, for the webinars, I did one on, I guess, ecology, economy, spirituality, social, which is really basically law. And how do you do law? How do you do social organization? So social, and then political. Those to me are the 5 main groups. There may be others, you know, that we probably will get them later. But at least right now, we've identified at least 5 main categories. Those were the questions that we had, you know, the 5 main categories of questions we had.
What about health?
Health, where does that fall under? Social?
Yeah, what does,
And parenting and education is social.
Social, yeah. I put that under social. So meaning there is this larger project about social where all these sub-projects are under, you know. So this is how you would, and unfortunately in Basecamp, we don't have projects within projects.
right.
So which is what I'm trying to get Beyond Animal to do. Because if they do a hierarchy, it's going to be a complete hierarchy. You can do, so they call it a community. And within the community, there are groups within the community and then subgroups and so on. And it's ad infinitum.
I think LinkedIn does that.
LinkedIn does group within group.
That's ringing a bell.
Okay. But I mean, rather than going all into LinkedIn, I would much rather prefer to evaluate Beyond Animal right now. Yeah.
One thing about this list, the one you just described, and the ones that follow it, a lot of them have to do with those, assuming those projects have got their momentum going and they're starting to generate needs that we can meet.
Right.
The one that's clearly a front runner is to provide an onboarding process to acclimate new people coming into Vegan World 2026 Basecamp. That's something we're already starting to do.
Right.
And it's something that has a clear end when we have that accomplished. So if we have an onboarding process, and it's something that people are asking about, and it makes my life a lot easier.
Yeah, I think
and I'm obviously part of that.
I would say, you know, we need to first, maybe the first tutorial could be Jessica and Jackie talking about that, about the work they've done. Okay. So then people understand, you know, this is the process we are working on. This is how it is forming at the moment, and we can then discuss. Are we all on board with this, or is there something we need to change, etc.? You know, at least it's a start. I think that'll be a great first tutorial.
And so, Jackie, when might that be? When might you guys be ready to do such a tutorial?
For the onboarding for new members,
Mm-hmm.
we just completed the documents. We completed the culture and the policy and procedure, and we just completed the new member. So it was sent to Sailesh. We're just waiting for his final approval on it, and then we'll be ready.
Jackie is not my approval. Show it to the whole.
Oh, sorry.
Community. Yeah. Show it to the whole community. Okay, so then there'll be discussion around it, and there'll be a consensus around it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now Jessica's only available 8 p.m. Eastern and later.
Right.
So that's really contingent on when we can all gather. I'm okay with 8 p.m. Eastern. So whenever anyone else is available, she's pretty flexible.
So we should, well, so the two of you, or the two of you with Ray, I'm not sure, should figure out a time that you want to do that, because again, for people who can't, everyone can't be there. I mean, the 400 people are not going to be there.
Right.
So if you guys choose the time and day that you want to do it,
Okay.
then we will make sure that either we are there or we see it before our next meeting so that we can discuss it, but people will be discussing it while it's going on and in between. So would we kind of look at this like a proposal, or is this different than that?
It'd be I mean, it's coming in as a recommendation from Jackie and Jessica. That's their
Okay.
recommendation,
Okay.
right? And they have spent a lot of time thinking about it, and they have come up with this.
Right. And so you guys need to decide, like, we can't say how much time you need because we don't know what all the information, I mean, you'd need to decide, oh, we can do this in an hour. No, we need 3 hours. And so maybe we'll do it in 1 block, or maybe we'll do it in 2. You know, you guys would need to decide that.
Okay, I'll reach out to her when we're done and see if I can get something arranged in the next day and send it out. I don't think it'll take more than an hour, honestly. It's pretty straightforward and it's pretty synthesized of everything that we've all talked about and agreed. I've been taking notes for months. So I think it's just going to be kind of just going through it and making sure that it's aligned with what we've all been envisioning. So I don't think it'll take more than an hour.
Yeah. And I mean, if it's possible to get the written documents posted beforehand so people can read them and then come with their questions or submit questions. If they're not going to be able to be there, they could submit questions ahead of time and say, you know, I can't make this particular meeting time, but I have these questions if you can address that or whatever.
Yeah.
That would be
Perfect.
great.
Yes. Yes, we'll do that.
Perfect.
And it's not, we don't have to have this done in the next day or two, just we need to get it planned
Right.
and figure it out. So, okay, excellent. So, I mean, using that kind of as an example, Silas, have you gone through all of the groups and do you clearly see which of these 5 they fit into? Can you share it with us, or do you want us to try and do that, or?
It's all based on the original questions because we had these boards, right, where we wrote all the questions in the first
At the first conference?
first conference. Yeah. So that's from those questions these task forces came, right? So originally the questions were already categorized as political, social, ecological, economic, and spiritual. So it's already categorized on the website also.
Okay, so we'll be able to see that.
Right.
You know,
So
I'd like to actually have a politics. Here are the study groups and task forces that fall under that.
right,
Here's social. Here's
right,
these groups fall under that. Here's
right.
right. So I'm trying to figure out how to do that.
Yeah, that's currently in Basecamp it's hard to do that because they only have flat projects. So we need to, when we have this Beyond Animal platform, I think we should be able to do that.
Okay, so we don't need to worry about it right now.
Right. Yeah. Don't worry about it right now. And then, basically what you're doing will happen in that political group will be talking to all their subgroups and they will have tutorials from their subgroups. So they'll work out their, manage their own subgroups. And then they will report into VCI. So essentially, it's like a hierarchy you're building to manage the information that's flowing, right? So,
Yes.
and making sure, but everyone is working with the 7 core shifts. So that's common to all of them. Yeah.
Okay.
How many groups, how many projects, task forces do we have right now, right? And how many are active that we are going to be looking to have them come in and present something? Because I can volunteer to help, like initiate writing something and then the invitation for them to come in. How many are we talking about?
There's over 24 projects.
Projects, and is task force is that separate? Does that fall into?
Do we have any that really qualify as task forces? I don't think we do. We've got a few that have task force in their name, but Pinky Promise Task Force is probably the only one that's actually tasking as a task force.
Okay.
Yeah.
And some of it may be indicative of a lot of a momentum that came out of the conference that just kind of dissipated without any specific leadership. Like the medical education task force, I don't know what the task is. If there's supposed to be a white paper written by that group, there's nobody to write it. So it's kind of should be demoted.
Well, I let it be, because I think as part of the K-Mama app, Priya is doing that. She is creating a task force of medical people who are going to be responsible for the recommendations on diet that goes out. So then they have to formalize that. We can get them to formalize that as part of that activity that they're doing. So Priya is really, enthusiastic about it. I'll make her the lead for that and make her the head of the medical education task force, and things will get done.
And the way that I've observed it is that every topic should have a study group that stays a study group in perpetuity, because something like that specific task of the medical education task force doesn't mean that everything from medical education has been covered. I think the topic itself is, how does the medical system, their education system, how does it need to be rehabilitated? What are doctors not being taught? What is wrong with the system that's completely funded by the pharmaceutical industry to be completely reactive to diseases rather than preventative?
Right.
That's the big question. And every time there's an initiative, it's going to be something that's a subset of that. Like the normalizing vegan food study group. We have engaged the PCRM's universal meal option plan. So we want to engage with that and make a task force out of that. But that, of course, doesn't normalize all vegan food. There'll still be more initiatives to come out of it. So
maybe you're right, Ray.
Study groups.
Maybe study groups will spawn off other study groups that become task forces. That study group can remain a study group for a long time.
Like Shankar's NAICS codes.
Right. Yeah.
That doesn't build the new economy quite on its own, but it's obviously an initiative of new economy.
Right.
Okay.
So what happened? I think there was a tutorial that PCRM was going to give us about universal meals.
Yeah, that should have happened by now. I don't know what happened. I'll have to contact them and see what they've got planned.
I think COVID-19 happened, so they are all.
They've got a person that's designated. This is their full-time gig, and we jumped on it, and they seem pretty happy about it. And
we may need to follow up with them and say that we are still interested. We want to know what they're doing about it, what they're already doing about it. So we can just, copy that and put it over, right?
And we want them to invite Mayim Bialik to Basecamp.
Yeah, that would be good.
She's one of the advisors. Well, picture right next to Silashes.
Maybe there'll be more activity on Basecamp if she shows up and she's active.
Yeah, actually, I was having a conversation with Jessica before, and Barnard Medical Center is my doctor. So when I was there, I shared a copy of the Climate Healers white paper. Reached out to them. I think they're taking a little time. Like, I think maybe they're occupied. Like the person responded me for a couple of emails, who is in charge for the universal meals. I reached out to the another person too, but I think they're maybe occupied.
Yeah.
I went to their office in person and talked.
All right. Cool. Very cool. All right. I noticed that we are 3 minutes before our designated ending time. So we will go over by a few minutes, but I think this is extremely helpful. And I think that starting with you, Jackie, and Jessica coming up with this tutorial and beginning that process, I think that will help us a lot to come up with the questions that we need to make sure that we're asking of people and figuring out how to do that with additional folks. So I think that's extremely good. I think that it's going to take us a number more weeks to figure out each of those aims and exactly what we're doing, but now we have a really good start on that. And the onboarding process is obviously one of the most important. So I think this was great. I'd like us I think we had some time on the agenda to talk about next week's agenda, which is going to be a continuation of this agenda. It'll be written a little bit differently, but obviously we need to keep going in the same way. And not knowing yet when you're going to do your tutorial, there'll either be time to have discussion about it next week or the week after, depending on when you guys actually hold that. So thank you for being willing to be the first group up.
Sure, of course. And just to remind me, so we're going to set up a time, and I'll let you guys know as soon as we get a time. We will post the documents for review so that people can come with questions prepared, or they can submit questions ahead of time. And so using the word tutorial, do we want to set up a time where we're just kind of going through the documents and we're just submitting that, just kind of go through it and present it and then open it to questions or concerns? Is that kind of just like what we're talking about, like a presentation of what we've compiled and then just opening it up?
I think so.
Okay.
Yeah, so you'd want to talk about what you came up with and a little bit about why you think that's going to work.
Right.
Yeah. What it is that I don't know what you came up with, but you're going to ask people to observe 3 meetings. I know we had some conversation about this before you become a full-fledged member of a group. So why would you suggest that?
Actually, that was removed. That was discussed and removed. So that's it. Yeah, but we do have more. We do have some things. So what we came up with and why we came to the conclusion that this would work. Okay.
And I don't know that you need to have a reason for absolutely everything, because some things will be really obvious, but other things may not be quite so obvious.
Yeah.
So,
okay.
And people will come with their own questions. So you may have said, this is what we came up with and this is why, and then people may ask you why about other things that you either didn't think about or didn't think were important enough to do that. And that's just the way it's gonna be. But I think this will be a fabulous test run, for lack of a better phrase, about the way that this will all work as we move forward.
I agree too, and I'm a very experiential person. So if I'm going to put someone in the seat, I would like to have gone through the experience myself, so I can be more compassionate and more, more connected. So that when you're there, so when we make the invitation and we invite them, it's like we understand I've been through it. So
right.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Any other questions before we have our checkout? Oh, Shankar?
Yes, actually, the last point, I had a question to review and consent to the proposal, see the template. So our one thinking was, like, for now, that there is one action pending for me for the next code is like posting a sample response or kind of like pictures, images, which can be shared to social media. I want to know, can I go and put it in the docs and files in the common area? Like I create a folder, or should I have to, what I want to know was, PCI proposal code or, sorry.
So Shankar, so here's what I'm thinking at this moment, and that is that tutorial number 2 should be a tutorial about this proposal process. And so you would do a tutorial about it. Okay. And again, talk about what you came up with and why. You've already got the 2, the blank and the filled in form that you can show people, and open it up for questions. And then it will be available for everyone to use.
Right. Okay. So are we okay with that survey, Google survey, or the Word document, the fillable Word document, which would be good for us?
I think either you make that decision or you present both and let people respond to both.
Okay, I would say at this point we have both 2 options.
Yeah, yeah.
So that's one thing. And I can still put the files in the docs areas, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Oh,
Okay.
Yeah, that place is always for you to store things that you need. Right?
Sure.
So you can store whatever you need.
Sure. I will say proposal name, then I will put that. So the keyword is proposal. When you search, probably it will come. Then we can also put the video link or how we discussed about all this that I can add. But right now, I'll just first share the content so we can share it in social media. I came up with one like instruction thing and another 3 images are already made. I didn't get a chance to post it there. I was waiting for just want to get comfortable on the location rather than uploading. But when I do it, I'm going to do it in a folder. So when you go into that folder, you'll find all the information. Not so it doesn't sort alphabetically one place, another place across. So that was one question. And one more question I had was this one template, like if what Jackie and Jessica is doing is if that's considered as a proposal, or should I have to give the template to them, or Suzanne is going to hand over? I don't know. I just want to know.
Are
Well,
you asking?
Yeah, just do you have to give the template to Jessica or Jackie? As the
Right. I think it would be really cool if they actually filled that out.
the 7 thing for the compliance.
Right. And to see how that works for something like this.
Okay.
If you guys are willing to do that, I think it would be wonderful to see how does that work for a recommendation like what you're making.
It's
And
a
it
great
would
idea.
Just give us
Yeah.
another piece of data about, does this work? Does it not work? Does it fit everything? Does it not fit everything?
Yeah.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah.
And then I'm sorry, Sankar, go ahead.
I'll just go back and I'll probably stick to that survey because I don't that like I can keep the document as maybe a sample, but I still have to submit the survey on the online version. I will do that and make a PDF. So how it looks like from the reviewer size.
Right.
So I think that's all the question I had. Thank you.
Okay.
And I just had a quick question. Where do you want me to post these documents for review for everyone?
Oh, that's a good question. So is it within VCI or no, it's within the Vegan World 2026, the main, I don't know what we call it, the main.
Yeah, the docs and file.
Right.
Because as a
Right.
Headquarters? I call it headquarters.
Headquarters. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that
headquarters.
HQ. We'll put it in
HQ.
HQ. Vegan World
Yeah.
2026 HQ.
Yes.
docs
Okay, and do you want me to title it proposal and then what the proposal is? When we put there, okay.
Yeah, and again, we'll take a look at it again and say, did that work or did it not work? Did that clarify things or did it confuse things? And we may need to change it. But for now, I think we ought to do it. We ought to do that.
Yeah, the one question that I think I forgot now it came to my the status, like each group linking status. I know we're gonna change the platform, so it's fine, whatever. But now, is it we gonna like how we post the agenda right now? We post the agenda under the meeting. So do you think like we can post one for each of the groups status? They can come and post, or we can do a to-do under each of those groups under a date. So that be mentioned here, or as simple as we can just add it below the agenda. That is also fine. Like it all depends on how robust we are keeping tracking of the status. Like,
Yeah, I'm not sure.
okay, I'll take an example. For example, New Economy, a group, okay? So we're gonna meet tomorrow. So next VCA meeting, like we can give a status. Is it okay if each of us come and copy below the agenda our status, like, hey, on behalf of New Economy Group, status.
I think that would be fabulous.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think to start, that sounds great. And if we want to come up with another way of reporting in the future, but yeah, I think to start, that's awesome.
Because this agenda makes it easy to go to one place to look.
Exactly. Exactly. It makes it
Thank
easy
you.
to go to one place. And again, we're trying to do things that are good enough for now and safe enough to try. We're not risking anything here. We've got it. It stays there. The information is there. If we decide with the number of groups we have, that's too cumbersome, or if we, I mean, whatever it is, we can change it. We don't have to keep it here, but I think that's a fabulous idea.
Yeah, probably I think we need a notification to all of them, call for status.
Maybe a motivation to get people to have something to report week after week.
Right.
There's
and-
not an awful lot that changes when you're working on your vision, mission, aims, and culture, and then you're doing the same the next week and then next week. It might be a bit humbling to not have any progress to report. But as we get going, I can see it's going to be a very integral part of collective intelligence.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
I've got a question. The one item to provide an onboarding process for people coming into Vegan World 2026. This is something that's immediately important. And is there a task force that's already assigned to this? Are there people involved in that?
It's been just Jessica and Jackie working on it.
And then
Because that's
we talked about there being a new like physical group in Basecamp too, but I don't think that's been made yet.
I think that's part of the what Jessica and Jackie will be recommending, right? I think the process.
What we came together with was, as new members enter, how do they familiarize themselves with the culture? What information should they know? How much time should they take? And explore the groups as they're exploring the groups. And we encourage them to be certified climate healers, and then the reasons why and what's going forward. I'm open to more. I think this is where we kind of stayed to be safe, but I did, in the conversations, I did say, should there be something more? Should we have a meeting, a monthly meeting where we have all new members come together and just kind of discuss and talk and ask questions? So that's what I'm hoping, that once we present, to get the ideas and maybe, fluff it out a little more with what can we do once members have been introduced and they're familiarized, now what? And how can we have maybe a liaison that we support? If you're a little confused, this is someone you can reach out to that's in your group. So that's kind of the things I'm hoping to get from the tutorial.
And hopefully there'll be both people who have been in Basecamp for a while and feel really comfortable with it, who read that stuff or listen to that and think, oh, I wish this had been available when I came in. And then there'll be brand new people who haven't really gotten into it yet, who are still very confused, who will be saying, hey, I need this thing or that thing. And so then it will end up getting flushed out.
The two basic questions that I get on a daily basis are, how does Basecamp work, and how does Vegan World 2026 work? No two small things that can be answered in one sentence, but that's why I think this is a priority, because it's something that's happening every day, and we have a lot of different resources, and are they all collected together and ready for people? Part of the answer to how does Vegan World 2026 work is going to be specific for people that are joining, especially if they're joining a group that is already in progress. What are the rules? Do they have to watch previous recordings of meetings? Is that recommended? Is there ways to engage different groups, especially VCI? Do we invite people to attend and listen for a few sessions, or
I think all of
everybody's
this,
instant participants?
Right. I think all of this is what the tutorial is aimed to get, all of those questions. So the work is not being presented as the way I understand it, the work is not being presented as a finished product. The work is being presented as, here's a really good start. and we need some more help about how to finish it. Now, on occasion, you may have someone who's spent an enormous amount of time and could see something all the way around, and there isn't a lot that needs to be done, a lot more that needs to be done on that. But most of the time, that initial product is going to change quite a bit once 30, 40, 100 people ask questions and put their slant on it. I mean, it just is. That's the beauty of doing it this way. You're not taking responsibility for the finished product. You're taking responsibility for putting some good thought into what we send out to the community, and then the whole community, and it will almost never be the whole community, but a bunch of people who have been impacted either positively or negatively about that thing are going to participate and say, here, this could make it better. This would have made my life easier when I came through. And then we'll end up with a product that is much better.
Right.
So
that is collective intelligence.
Right. In action.
In action.
Yeah, that is the practice of collective intelligence. And it takes the responsibility off any one person or one small group to come up with something that's, all encompassing. Nobody has to do that. We have to get something started. We have to put some good thought. We have to lay some things out, and then everyone else will fill it in and finish it. It's the stone soup, right? I mean, it's, you bring the carrot and you bring the onion and you bring the potato and you bring the, right? That's, and so, we're asking you to bring the pot and the water and the stone, the idea to get it started, but everybody else brings all the rest.
And I think the way we phrase it also is that subliminal way of us, we, our, us, we, our, and always to just maintain that us, we, our, that this should be just like everything else. It's a document, it's an evolving document. It's fluid, it's there to serve the whole. And so when we introduce it like that, and we always say, this is ours, our document, we're creating it. We just keep, because we do, and we do address how people do come into Basecamp, and some of us come with some densities with us. So that's one of the things to me, is that kind of like leave the illusion at the door. As soon as you enter, this is about we, us, and our.
Right.
I'm just worried about the scope of all that. People come in and they want to know how Basecamp works.
And if
they don't learn right away, they leave. So it doesn't matter how, like, if they learn this wonderful system that's going to take months to come about, I need something today, is what I'm saying. Otherwise, I'm continuing to answer one by one every single person in the list of 400 people.
I'm going to get this meeting as soon as possible, right? Because we're ready to finish it and put it.
And I've also got people that are saying the onboarding process isn't clear. Do you need help with that? So there's more people that may be interested in helping with this solution.
Perfect.
Yeah, so we want to make sure that, since you know who those people are, that you specifically reach out to them and say, I mean, we're going to send this out to everyone, but if there could be a second thing that Ray says, hey, I know you said you would help with the onboarding process. Here's the opportunity to do that. This is how we're doing it. We're going to have this tutorial. If you can make it live, great. If you can't make it live, you can still read everything ahead of time and submit your questions, ideas, thoughts, whatever it is,
right.
Criticisms.
Yeah.
So that the whole community sees what those are and can react to it. And hopefully that will take a whole lot of work off of you in the future. It's still going to be a couple weeks before that all gets done. And there may be another whole group that comes out of this. There may be an onboarding group that there's a person that goes through Basecamp with every new person that comes in. There may, I don't know. I don't know how complicated that is. There may be a person who, even if we write it up or speak it out, there may still need to be a person that goes through a bunch of these phrases. What is a vegan world? Why is it only, 50+%? Why,
Sounds like an FAQ.
Right. We may have to, or maybe there's a once a month open house for 2 to 3 hours or 2 different time slots. a morning and an evening, that, you know, 3 people volunteer to host who can answer all of those questions. But all of that does not need to be decided today. Those are the ideas that are going to come up, and then we're going to incorporate them, and then we're going to come up with the semifinal, because we will almost never come up with the final thing, right? We'll come up with this is what we're going to do for the next 6 months. We'll look at it in 6 months, or we'll look at it in a year, or we'll look at it when some other big thing happens that we need to look at it again.
And since Basecamp is our platform of choice at the moment, it includes Basecamp training?
It's going to have to.
Jessica has created tutorials for Basecamp that are linked into the document. So when they get there, if you need more tutorial, then we click on the link. And the 7 core shifts, when we explain, you know, that's our culture, there's a link that'll take you to that. And then, and again, we welcome feedback. Is that something that we should have an explanation within the document? Is the link enough? That's something that, you know, all our experiences, all of us come in with different needs. And again, some of us are more technology savvy, some of us are not, and may have those needs. So, you know, how do we customize it for the general? But again, people are going to have different needs. So yeah, we both, Jessica and I, differed on that. And we said, you know what?
Well, I know what the needs are. I need to tell you what the needs are.
Yeah,
one of them is, I don't understand why I'm getting all these emails, and I answer the emails and they go into Basecamp, and nobody has ever actually been in Basecamp. They're just answering emails, and they're just going wherever. They're just reacting to whatever, wherever, not realizing that there's an interface to Basecamp.
Well, let me go through her tutorial again and see if that addresses it. But I think she also did a small tutorial on how to navigate the notifications. I think either she discusses it within the document, or she did a small tutorial, because we knew that that was an issue about the notifications. So that we did address in there. But again, it may not be enough. We may need a little bit more. So we're open.
I think all this works only when you come to Basecamp.
Yeah.
Right. And again, all of these things are the things that will be dealt with during the tutorial and after the tutorial. So again, this isn't the finished product. It's not even intended to be the finished product. It's intended to be the first offering, at least the way I understand this whole process.
Yeah, it's a recommendation based on their experience and their study of the problem. Yeah.
I guess what I'm saying is, whatever you think the onboarding process is, I'm doing it when people come to me and say, I don't know how any of this works.
So do you want to meet with them before they do the tutorial? Do you want to meet with Jessica and Jackie to?
Yeah, I think there's.
Yeah,
like,
it sounds.
Well, before, sure.
It sounds to me like that might be the thing. Jackie, do you think that you and Jessica could meet with Ray before you put it all out?
Sure. If you think that there's things that we need to really should get in there before we present it to the whole, absolutely.
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah. We want to make this such an inviting, beautiful opportunity when people come in, and the last thing we want is for them to be like, oh my God, I'm overwhelmed. Like, that's the last thing we want. So yeah, please.
I've got 2 people to share with you immediately. 2 emails I've received. One is, I've watched the videos and I still understand what to do, and they have like about 50 questions. And the other person is, seems to have just jumped right into Basecamp and says, how can I help you facilitate this website? So a volunteer who wants to help in any way they can. So they may be a person to incorporate into that process.
Yeah, so if the 3 of you can meet before you actually do the tutorial, that would be fabulous. So we'll let you guys figure out when to do that. All right. Okay. Excellent. So let's go ahead and move to our checkout, which is kind of the standard checkout. What are you leaving this meeting with? We've just spent 2 hours and 20 minutes together, and we just want to have a sense about what people are leaving with. So how about if we start with Jackie?
I feel impassioned.
Impassioned. Okay. All right. Shankar?
Thank you, everyone. Like, I'm even more excited. Like, I saw, it's like things coming together. Plus, I'm hearing the new platform. Now I'm even curious to try, and we're gonna connect with more people. So it's really like awesome. Like I'm still seeing how things gonna evolve further.
Excellent. Excellent. Ray?
I think revelation, things are starting to take shape and reveal itself.
Cool. Suzanne?
I'm feeling energized after this 2-hour plus meeting. Thank you all.
Benjamin?
That was going to be my word too. Sometimes we think of the same words same time.
We do that.
What are the odds?
What are the odds? Silas?
Form and function. I see it.
Form?
Yeah. See it coming together. Thank you.
Yeah.
Actually, Shankar said something that I was going to say too. So
Cool. I feel like we're getting our footing. Like
Mm.
I didn't even realize it, but I feel like I've been on a ship or a train or something, you know, where you can't quite get your footing. And now it feels like, oh, like the ground underneath us is starting to be stabilized and we're starting to get somewhere. So, all right. Well, thank you all very much. We will get the doodle out. You guys will work on, there will be 2 tutorials in the next couple of weeks, and we will continue working on the goals, the aims when we come back next week. So thank you so much. And I'm guessing most of us are going to see each other at some point tomorrow, because tomorrow is Earth Day and
Right.
most of us are going to be doing something with each other. All right.
Yep. Happy Earth Day.
Yeah, happy
Earth
Earth
Day.
Day. Everyone
Thank you.
take care. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.